What do these athletes have in common? Cleveland Cavaliers' Kevin Love and Channing Frye, U.S. soccer star Hope Solo, Olympic swimming phenom Michael Phelps, USC volleyball player Victoria Garrick, tennis star Serena Williams, Chicago Blackhawks goalie Scott Darling. What do they have in common? Each of them have had mental health challenges. Each of them struggled in silence until their issues became overwhelming and interfered with their ability to function. And each of them decided to make their struggles public, to let other athletes know that they are not alone. They made their struggles public so those of you who are struggling will know that it's okay to seek help. This is a fifth in the series of presentations designed to address stress-related challenges among athletes. In the recent NCAA Student Athlete Wellbeing Survey, most respondents reported experiencing high rates of mental distress, while 82% of respondents reported feeling positive or very positive about the support they're receiving from their coaches. The unprecedented times have caused stress and anxiety. Over a third of the respondents to the NCAA survey reported experiencing sleep difficulties, which I covered in session 4, while more than a quarter reported feeling sadness and a sense of loss. And 1 in 10 reported feeling so depressed it has been difficult to function constantly or most every day. I'd like to share an example using one of my students, a freshman baseball player enrolled in my stress management class this semester. Each week in his stress journals, I get a glimpse of what he's dealing with as an incoming student athlete experiencing college for the first time during the COVID pandemic. Initially, he wrote of the challenge being away from home, adjusting to life on his own so far from his home in another state. And COVID only exacerbated the situation. He expressed difficulties making friends and becoming engaged with other students due to limited access to social functions. Even fall ball was more restricted than in the past, affecting the team bonding he'd sought. So here's what he had to say in his most recent stress journal this week. For some reason, the emotional side of me just wanted to be in a bad mood this week. On Friday and Saturday, I didn't feel like being around anybody. I just wanted to be alone in my room. I wanted to stay in bed with no one around me, just me, myself, and I. This happens way more often nowadays, and I'm not sure if I should be entirely concerned or not. As it comes closer to break, each day I find it harder and harder to find the motivation to get up and just do simple tasks. I'm just feeling extremely burnt out, and my mental health is probably plummeting again. The reason I want to be alone at times is that I don't want to put up a front to my friends, putting on a fake smile and making it seem like everything is all right when it's not. It is hard for me to do sometimes. That is just too exhausting because I'm already so exhausted from school and life. Needless to say, I took time to follow up with this student and made sure he's connected to campus resources and encouraged him to talk with his coach as well. He was clearly exhibiting some of the symptoms of depression as are identified in this slide. And keep in mind that any of these symptoms in any combination could indicate depression. The more of the symptoms you have, the greater the severity, the more likely a person is depressed. So the signs include hopeless outlook, lost interest, increased sleep problems, anxiety, irritability. Some people will experience weight fluctuations, either gaining or losing, uncontrollable emotions, and some begin to have thoughts about death. Depression and anxiety often go hand in hand, though they can also occur separately. These are the signs of anxiety. Emotional symptoms include feeling apprehensive, tense, restlessness, and irritability, thinking that things can only get worse, and being on alert for bad things to happen. Physical symptoms include a racing heart, shortness of breath, sweating and shaking, headaches, fatigue, and insomnia, and stomach distress. What can you do if you are experiencing these things? First, recognize the signs and symptoms that I just reviewed. Remember that you don't need to exhibit all of these symptoms to be depressed or anxious. And if it's really bad, seek help from a licensed mental health provider. Each of your institutions provides services for addressing these issues. In the Session 5 links page, I've included all of the links to each of your counseling or student support services from your institution. Now, some students may prefer not to seek services from in the institution, so I've also included a link to Psychology Today Find a Therapist site on the Session 5 links page for those of you who would prefer an off-campus therapist. Number 3 is to actively participate in your treatment. In some cases, this may include medications. Whatever it is, it should be something that works for you. And if you find that the first counselor you talk to doesn't work for you, keep looking for someone else that you can connect with. 4, be mindful of the things that trigger or increase your mental health issues. And working with a therapist may help you to discover these triggers and find a way to deal with them that don't set you off. 5, practice daily self-care, including getting enough sleep, using simple stress management strategies, and taking action when you're feeling stressed, anxious, or depressed. Finally, reach out to your coach. Let him or her know what's going on. They really care. Now, you may be one of the 9 out of 10 athletes who are doing okay. What can you do if you see a teammate struggling? Well, you need to reach out and express your concern. Say something like, "Hey, are you okay?" And then stop what you're doing, look at the person, and simply listen. Listen to their feelings and acknowledge their feelings. Ask questions for clarification without judging. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is to respond as if the problem that they're expressing is a sign of weakness, or that it's unimportant or trivial. Indicate that you want to help, but don't assume. Clarify what help the person may want. Find out what they need. And if they approach you for help, thank them for coming to you and let them know that you're there to support them. Make any necessary referral and encourage or support them getting help. Let them know that's a good idea. Maybe help them to make an appointment with the college counseling center or other mental health professional. That's a great way for you to feel confident in your support. At the same time, know your limits. Be aware of what's reasonable to expect from yourself. You're not a counselor. So know your resources, be there to listen, be a good listener, and then if it's beyond you, let them know that you really want them to maybe see a counselor because you just don't understand what they're going through. You have limited control of the situation. So take care of yourself, plant the seed to get help. It can be difficult for people to reach out and accept help. So helping your teammate may simply be accepting that they don't want to see a counselor yet. But let them know that you care, that you're there, and if they do want to see a counselor at some point in time, you'll be there to support them, to hold their hand, to back them up. So if you're in a crisis, if things are beyond your control, or if you see a friend who's really being self-destructive, or they've just shut themselves off to the world, that's a crisis. And you may need to reach out to get some immediate help. So a crisis doesn't just mean that someone is thinking about doing something so drastic like ending their lives. A crisis is when someone is experiencing any painful emotion and any time they need someone to help them to deal with it. When you see someone in this situation, or when you're in this situation and don't feel like you can any longer handle it on your own, these are two places you can go for immediate help. First of all, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is a national network of local crisis centers that provides free and confidential emotional support to people in crisis or emotional distress that's offered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number is 1-800-273-8233. What can you expect when you call the Lifeline? First, you'll hear an automated message featuring additional options while your call is being routed to your local Lifeline Network Crisis Center. You'll hear a little music playing while you're connected to a skilled, trained crisis worker. The trained crisis worker at your local center will answer the phone, and this person will listen to you, understand how the problem is affecting you or your friend, and will provide support and other help you need. Another great resource is the Crisis Text Line. This number is 741-741. You can text this number anytime you or a friend is in crisis. So just dial in 741-741 and then type a message like hello or start or help. An automatic response will be sent to you while you're being connected to a trained therapist. It may take up to 5 minutes to connect you with a trained counselor, so be sure to give it some time to be connected with someone. And then once you're connected, you'll text back and forth until you have a plan for dealing with the crisis or issue. So when people feel anxious, they often experience rapid breathing and the sense that the situation they're facing is out of control. Today I'm going to share a simple breathing technique that may help you to gather yourself in a panic situation. This technique can be done in any position that's comfortable for you, including standing, sitting, or lying down. So whatever position you're in when you find yourself panicking, know that you can just stand there or sit there or be lying there and do this exercise. Today's strategy is called lengthen your exhale. Let me explain how it works. Inhaling deeply may not always calm you down because taking a deep breath in is actually linked to the sympathetic nervous system, which controls the fight or flight response, so it gets you ready for action. Exhaling is linked to the parasympathetic nervous system, which influences our body's ability to relax and calm down. So instead of starting to take in deep breaths, you want to exhale to initiate that calming feeling. When you take too many breaths too quickly, it can actually cause you to hyperventilate, and then hyperventilation decreases the amount of oxygen-rich blood that flows to your brain. So when we feel anxious or under stress, it's easier to breathe too much and end up hyperventilating, even though we're trying to do the opposite. So, instead of taking a deep breath when you're panicking, try a thorough exhale instead. Push out all the air from your lungs, and then simply let your lungs do the work, inhaling and exhaling once you've done that thorough exhale. Calmly breathe in and out through your nose a few times naturally. And then try spending a little bit longer exhaling than you do inhaling. For example, try inhaling for 4 seconds and then exhale for 6. Try doing this until you feel yourself begin to calm. This may be the perfect thing to do when you find yourself panicking before you sit down for an exam, or in the middle of an exam, or right before a practice, or meeting with a professor, or trying to get yourself the courage to just go out have a bite to eat with friends. So I just want to remind you that I've created resource sheets to accompany each of these presentations. This week, you'll find links to information on depression and anxiety, videos of athletes talking about mental health issues, resources for getting help both on and off campus, strategies for helping out teammates, and strategies for dealing with anxiety and depression. So take care.